Somebody said you had a mullet yesterday?
Yeah.
A mullet? They see your hair for the first time and all of a sudden you've got a mullet.
I just don't mistake a mullet for unkempt. If hair interferes with vision, go to haircut, else continue.
We need a new secure email platform, and that's why Protonmail has emerged from CERN in Switzerland. It's going to be sort of a replacement to the LavaBit.
LavaBit was a secure online email service that was relatively secure in terms of when your email came in and it was immediately encrypted and only you could decrypt it. So that was pretty cool. And so the feds came in and said, we want to spy on this person surreptitiously. And the architecture of the system was such that giving them what they wanted would give them access to everybody's stuff on the way in. And maybe the next time the person they were interested in logged in, maybe they would be able to get their credentials or password or whatever. So instead of doing that, LavaBit shut down. And so now the scientists at CERN have created an alternative secure email system we should all go look at and play with because it's cool. And it's a similar secure architecture in that you can have email, but it can be kind of secure, even though it's sort of cloud-based.
My God, this part of the world is beautiful. Look at this; it's just amazing. I can't even get to the technology because they had to put a picture of their beautiful landscape in the background, and now I go on these sprees because when you sit around and you're using the computer all day, do you ever just like long for a mountain vista?
Vista, computer, no, come away from the Vista.
All right. A meadow, a nice meadow and a rocky peak.
No, the Windows XP background has ruined that for me.
Okay. Do you ever just long for a lake house bungalow?
A rolling glen. Hobbiton wouldn't be bad.
Hobbiton, all right. So yeah, and then I sometimes I'll just sit around and I start looking at pictures like this. And the next thing you know, I've got like 37 tabs open, and then all of a sudden a pistol will walk over and she'll be like, "Shouldn't you be? Are you supposed to be working?" Yeah, it happens a lot. Apple has been sued because they may not be delivering messages to Android users, text messages, that is.
How does this happen?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you have a phone that has a bug that it's like I'm an iPhone user and I'm going to text an Android user and it vanishes into the ether? How does this happen? How does this bug come about? I'm sure that it's accidental, but I mean, good Lord.
It might be accidental, but okay, here's my scenario. Let's put on your tinfoil hat for a minute. So the Apple guys, right, the devs or whatever, they're like, I got this weird bug. We're trying to send stuff over to Randy's Samsung over here and it just won't work. And we're going to have this fixed by, tomorrow, Thursday at the latest. And then the executives are like, no, leave it. It's a feature. Leave it. That's what happened.
Well, there is a memo from Steve Jobs before he died that said that, Apple is going to leverage their fandom to extend their reach and lock people into the ecosystem. And so I think it's certainly the case that if you have an iPhone and you transfer your settings or you switch phones or you move to a different platform, that they punish you for doing that by interfering with your stuff. Like, I think the most egregious example of that is when you have the iMessage integration and you integrate all of your stuff and then you want to transfer your text messages to a new phone, which is usually a pretty straightforward process with every other kind of phone and carrier out there. Doesn't work, and it just quietly disappears. In fact, not only does it not work, I think Apple's in hot water because even just going from iPhone to iPhone, there's a chance that your text messages will disappear. So it seems like Apple's being a little bit shady.
Speaking of fandom, I had to. Noctua has finally released attractive fans. I should be a little nicer here because I never judge a product based upon the aesthetic. I've said that a million times. But personally, I cannot stand the color of the Noctua Fans, even though I'm using them, Pistol's using them. Everyone's using Noctua Fans because they're so freaking quiet and they do a very good job. They finally have listened to the masses and they've listened to the reviewers and they've listened to everyone who's complaining. I pressed the wrong button. There we go. And they're making some nice, attractive fans. I don't care if the specs are worse or better or what. All I care about is that I'm being very vain. Being so vain right now.
Like, I like the black and slate looking fan. That's a pretty cool color scheme. Although it still came with little brown rubber bumpers, so no.
Between 2,000 and 3,000 RPMs, as far as the upper end on the industrial PPC line, that's a bit crazy. I mean, a lot of their fans historically do not go that high, but I mean, even at like, 300 to 500 RPM, it's doing okay. So these things move a lot of air.
If you were waiting to get a Noctua fan until you could get a black one, start your checkbooks.
And if you cannot stand the rubberized edges, you can take that off and use your own, like, rubber, whatever those things are you pull through. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, it comes with some. And
it
those
does.
are...
These things.
Yeah.
But you can get those in black. I have like a bag of black ones that I use for all kinds of things. So you can get these things here in black, and they just remove these, what do you call these rubberized corners or whatever? You can remove those.
I just call them rubber bumpers.
Yeah, the bumpers on the corner there. Remove those and just put that in black and all black. You'll be awesome. Whatever. Butterfly Labs. All right, when Butterfly Labs first came out, right, they make an ASIC machine, and that's a Bitcoin mining machine that does some ungodly, hash rate, and everybody wants it, right? And it costs several $1,000s. When they first came out, you were like, "This is nonsense. This is absolute nonsense." In fact, what's the golden egg analogy?
Oh, I think it was. It's like if this company can make these and it can make them in pretty significant volume. Why would they sell them? Why wouldn't they just keep them and mine Bitcoin? Because it's going to cost a lot, and an advantage they have is that, their numbers that they were saying were significantly higher than other people. So why would you do that? If you have a goose that lays golden eggs and you can make more geese, why would you sell a goose that lays golden eggs? Why wouldn't you just keep all the geese and have all of the geese lay the golden eggs for you and not give it to anyone else? So if they had that, which they didn't have, or they had in very low quantity, or they had in impossible to manufacture quantities, or they would have like a 0.05% yield rate or something like that. So yeah, it turns out they had a lot of complaints, and now they're being investigated.
A lot of complaints, yeah. Almost 300 complaints with the FTC have been registered. Like, people have not been receiving their machines, and the people that have been receiving their machines, a lot of times it's a different machine, or a broken machine, or a lower powered machine. And it's just been a mess for everyone. They
have shipped a few units that we know of that seem to be legit. But with, Bitcoin hovering around $400 right now, give or take, plus or minus, that may be a little low. And coupled with the increases in difficulty, which are basically taking GPUs out of the equation for mining, there's a lot of frustration and pressure. Certainly there exist people that have had an order in for over a year that have not taken delivery of the goods, and that is the problem.
Well, yeah, this gentleman here, this is just one example order. He placed an order for a couple of different units, the advanced units that are around 30 grand. So like $60,000 worth of stuff that he ordered. He ordered it on February 2nd, 2013. He still has not received what he ordered. They sent him like a lesser model or a different model or the wrong model or a broken model or something like that, and said that they would refund him the rest of the money. They never did. So a lot of really negative things going on here. And they were sued in, I believe it was Texas. It's Kansas. I'm sorry. They were sued in Kansas, and the judge, I guess, found them. They didn't even show up. So anyway, they lost that case in Kansas, and they have to pay $13,000. They still haven't paid that. And the latest case, the judge in this case said that what they're doing smacks of fraud or smells of fraud.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't pass the sniff test. But it hasn't passed the sniff test since day one. And if you'd watched our show, you would have said, oh, yes, that's what we said. It didn't pass the sniff test.
And if you're looking for a place to throw away $60,000, well, I got some ideas. Send me an email.
We've got that Bitcoin link on the website.
The future soldier will be part human, part machine. This is an interesting article about the Talos Suit, the one that they've been developing for a little while, with the exoskeleton, and, they've got solar panels in here, armor. They've got sensors that can perhaps even warn the soldier of things in his heads-up display. it's got all this fancy stuff going on. It's really computerized. It can help you run faster, improve your endurance, help you jump higher, improve your upper body strength, and that sort of thing. But the one thing that they're not talking about is how warm is this thing going to be? Then the person inside is just going to be like, I mean,
solar-powered air conditioning, anyone?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, think about it, like mascot. It's the suits. They're used in typically, well, sometimes they're outdoors, but a lot of times they're used indoors in like an air-conditioned gymnasium. And those guys, when they take off the mask, it's just like a flood of sweat that comes out. These guys are going to be using it in the middle of like the desert, and it's like a mascot suit covered in computers. That's probably going to get really hot. I'm wondering why nobody's talking about the heat generation.
There's going to be some generation of those where it's basically like the Iron Man suit where you've got the augmented strength and things like that. But the software will probably get to the point where it's like, oh, the wearer is unconscious. It doesn't matter. It's going to walk to the nearest medic anyway.
Yeah, that'd be kind of interesting.
That would be kind of cool.
Just keep walking, even though it's unconscious. Speaking of being unconscious, one of the other cool things, they're going to have like smart fabrics and stuff. And if it detects hemorrhaging, it's going to try to seal up or perhaps do something about it. And the reason I wanted to bring this article up in the first place is the Deus Ex implications here. So it said here in about 25 years, a lot of these things that are going to be based, on or placed on the suit are actually going to be placed either in the soldier or on the soldier's skin, and then they're going to use the soldier and his body for power. So they said a lot of this technology is going to be like, imagine something that looks like a tattoo or looks like something that's like printed on the skin, but it's drawing power from the skin, and also it's a sensor and it's giving you guys information or whatever. That could be interesting, but I don't think that this article is seeing as far into this as it should see. In 25 years, at the rate that we're going, a soldier possibly could opt for bionic eyes. I mean, think about it. What do you think? Would you think they could maybe sit down with a guy who's like about to become a super soldier and have him sign a bunch of contracts, and the next thing you know, he's got bionic arms, bionic eyes, and like jump legs, like frog legs?
I don't think it's gonna happen like that. I think it's gonna be the exoskeleton type of thing. I think that possibly it might be some cocktail of drugs like adrenaline and things like that. So you're wearing this suit or the backpack or whatever, and then you have like an, oh crap, something's going wrong moment, and you can hit a button and you can get a shot of like adrenaline right there from the machine. I kind of see something like that happening because that's more of a mix of like the biology with a lower cost on technology. But the winning solution here is going to be that the amount of energy you can get from the human body versus the amount of energy required for, say, I don't know, shoulder-mounted laser weaponry. They're going to be working on that type of thing before a lot of the other stuff. So the energy problem, the problem of having energy to run all this cool stuff is going to go away, and then it's not going to matter.
I don't know. I think they're going to start implanting stuff, just like all kinds of strange things, into people. I've got this vision that kind of is like Quake, but the bad guys are all like they've got metal legs and. Yeah.
I guess the secret agents already do have, their molars removed so that they can have the cyanide capsule or whatever. So if they're being tortured, they can kill themselves. That's kind of an implant.
Well, it looks like GSync is dead already. Everybody was so excited about GSync. I was kind of excited about GSync, and then FreeSync came out. But I kept thinking, there's something in the past that I remember seeing that was similar to this technology. Like a couple of years ago, there was something. I remember Wendell seeing something that really was a lot like GSync, right?
FreeSync came out, and it didn't really come out so much as this is the thing that neckbeards are awesome for. It's like, it didn't really come out so much as some neckbeard somewhere was like, wait a minute, I remember reading in an obscure Visa specification from 2007 that this is already part of the spec, just nobody implements it. And then AMD proceeded to just go buy some laptops that had a certain kind of LCD panel that followed the spec exactly. And then they were like, hey, check it out. These laptops already do basically G-Sync out of the box with nothing because they exactly perfectly follow some obscure Visa standard.
And the Visa standard's name is Adaptive Sync. And you know where I originally saw this? In 2011, I saw something about Adaptive Sync right here on GeForce.com.
On NVIDIA's website.
And look, it's called the NVIDIA Adaptive VSync. If you go VSync on, let me just, there we go. Adaptive VSync on the bottom. Notice how the top is stuttering a little bit with regular VSync. Even though there's no tiering, it stutters a little bit. But Adaptive VSync is buttery smooth. Yeah. That is just That's nice.
Now, the thing that we should mention here is that this standard sort of started to disappear because it just wasn't implemented and no one noticed. And then so with FreeSync, which is more recent than 2011, obviously, AMD's like, wait a minute, we need this. This would be a thing that we could have that would make these problems go away. And so NVIDIA has their own GSync technology, which is a little different. But the reason we're reporting this now is because the VISA standard has reaffirmed this FreeSync AMD. It's got a few tweaks to it, so we're kind of being a little facetious here, but the FreeSync technology is now officially part of the DisplayPort 1.2a specification. So if you see a card and it does DisplayPort 1.2a, it's got FreeSync or the standard old VISA adaptive sync from the days of yore implemented.
Yeah, it's just adapter sync, and so whenever you're getting a future monitor, just make sure that it's DisplayPort 1.2a. Get your graphics cards that support 1.2a, or your outputs on the graphics card. Make sure it's all 1.2a, and you're good to go.
Here's to you, neckbeard, that memorized the VISA standard.
That's like the only time we'll ever toast a neckbeard around here. I don't know. They do bring some color and excitement to the world, don't they? There's been a lot of other things that AMD has done in the past, and let's talk about their future for a minute, shall we? We've got some speculative type things. In 2015, apparently, AMD might just have a new x86 CPU out.
Dun, 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 dun.
And this is being reported by XBit Labs, and we don't know anything else.
Now, officially, AMD is mums the word on this. They're not talking about this, and they shouldn't. There's nothing on the roadmap. You remember a few months ago we were freaking out because it was like, oh, no, AMD 8350, end of the line now. But XBit Labs and a few other articles on the internet are reporting that there may be something up AMD's sleeve as far as the x86 architecture goes. Now, what that means, we have no idea. It could be, they could be talking about something in the APU side. They could be talking about some sort of new crazy APU that has as much computational power or more so than the 8350. They could be talking about a totally new architecture. If it is a totally new architecture, 2015 is probably optimistic. It may even be 2016.
They say that it's going to be groundbreaking. At least that's what people are here on the internet are saying. And there's the murmuring. I'm not sure where it came from, but it's really interesting. Let's speculate, shall we? I think that they're going to make cores that are larger, and they're going to do something like hyper-threading, something like that.
Yes, it seems like just based on some of the hires, the engineers that AMD has hired in the last little bit, and some of the things that they're doing on the gaming platforms. It seems like maybe they might go toward a symmetric multi-thread architecture, which is more like the Intel architecture as far as hyper-threading goes and things like that. But, because it's a new architecture, we don't know. It could be something really groundbreaking. And historically, you guys may not know, it's a really interesting story. AMD, as far as the technology goes, is usually really, really far ahead of Intel in terms of the cool stuff that they do. Like AMD...
Hold on a minute. The 4chan is about to crash with terrible, ugly memes of us because you said that. Listen, let me preface this just to make sure that all the guys, who are going to make terrible memes because Intel, NVIDIA, master race. Listen, guys, we know your Intel, NVIDIA is faster right now. It's more expensive and it's faster. Holy shit, right? But we want to, we need both of these companies because they push each other. And right now, there's nobody really pushing Intel to make faster parts. The Socket 2011 stuff, right? It's been around for 3 years. It's still the fastest thing on the planet. It's 3-year-old architecture, possibly more than 3-year-old architecture.
How long have we been stuck on quad cores now? I mean, come on. We had Q6600s. Come on.
I mean, and to be fair, Intel is innovating in different ways and integrating different technologies in. We've got, quick sync and things like that that have come up and enabled certain processes to be a lot faster, So they are doing things, but there's nobody pushing them to make a faster overall CPU. So, AMD coming back could be a really cool thing. I'll let you go ahead and continue and show how AMD has moved the industry forward and then Intel has answered. So go ahead.
Yeah, it really is a symbiotic relationship that these companies have. Now, Intel is larger and has always been larger and has always moved more product. But arguably, Intel does some really strange things. I mean, Intel and AMD are both companies that need to be able to just, completely piss away billions and billions of dollars on stuff that's completely dead end. And that sounds really crazy, but it's because they need so much stuff in R&D. And so if you look at it with a historical perspective, AMD was the first company to break the gigahertz barrier with both CPUs and GPUs. What that means is like the Athlon Thunderbird, which I think came out around the year 2000. They had 1 gigahertz parts, and that was ahead of the Pentium 3. And by my recollection, the Thunderbird part was cheaper and better than equivalent Pentium 3s. The Athlon 64 was the first set of 64-bit extensions for the x86 architecture. Intel was obsessed with having everyone go to their new architecture called the Itanium, which has historically become to be known as the Itanic. So that has been completely abandoned. And Intel licensed, like the 64-bit extensions that we all know and love in our i5, i7, i3, i5, i7s, those are licensed from AMD. AMD came up with that. Intel took it, made it better, made it their own, but the technology originated with AMD.
And when did the memory controller, that was on the, as you said, Athlon 64, right?
Yes, the Athlon 64
First
also,
memory controller.
Yes, moved the memory controller on chip. And Intel totally poo-pooed that. They were like, oh, no. Yeah,
I haven't heard that phrase in a while.
It was like, no, memory. And, here we see finally with, I think, socket 1366, the Nihilum architecture, I believe, Intel moved the memory controller on chip. So, as far back as socket 775, the memory controller was still on the Northbridge, and that was a disadvantage. It was less of a disadvantage because of the particulars of the Intel system architecture, but it was still sort of an architectural problem that Intel had to address, and so AMD was ahead of them there. Now, in terms of units moved and things like that, yeah, not really there. But, a dual-core AMD Athlon 64 would absolutely run circles around a NetBurst Pentium 4, and Intel got caught with their pants down. So with like the Pentium D, they just copy-pasted 2 chips on 1 die, and we're like, ta-da, dual-core, ah! But it was a piece of crap. And AMD really challenged Intel from a technology standpoint, and they got some wins. And so this architecture, like AMD actually could pull this off if they do the engineering, and that's really good. Intel needs that. Intel needs the AMD to be a better Intel, and I really wish that AMD could afford to, piss away billions of dollars on failed projects like the Itanic. But AMD is so much smaller, they can't do that, and I think it hurts them because it makes them a little slower. But both of them should be able to do that, and I wish their relationship was a little bit more balanced so that AMD could do those kind of things, because they're entitled to it. They're really good engineers. They're really sharp people.
That's a world that I really, really want. Right now, I'm running an Intel. I have to run an Intel because I want the fastest CPU. So I have to run an Intel. If AMD makes the fastest CPU, I have no brand loyalty. I see weirdness, and I point at it and say, hey, Intel's doing something anti-competitive, or hey, AMD's doing something shystery. I'll point at those things and, call them out and all that, but I really don't have any brand loyalty. I'll use whatever's best for my particular application, and right now, I've got an Intel, and it's not going to get any faster unless they have some competition, really.
Look at Haswell. Haswell is a move to a new platform, and it's about performance per watt. It's not about performance. Haswell has some cool features over Ivy Bridge, but, in terms of raw computational power, so I really, from a monetary standpoint, AMD has had some pretty big recent wins. So they're going to have some cash, and it looks like what they're going to spend that cash on is a new architecture. So they're betting pretty big with this money. And the money that they're getting is, they've got 2 video game consoles, the PS1 and the Xbox One and the PS4. And they've also got the wins with the Mac Pros from Apple, the GPUs there, and now that GPU mining's not really there, the prices for GPUs are also stabilizing. So we're seeing price cuts on AMD GPUs. So these are all things that are really, really good news for AMD in terms of disposable income that they're going to have available. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with it over the next 2 years.
I want to talk a little bit about the new Intel Z97 chipset, since we're on the topic of Intel and AMD and that sort of thing.
Yes. So this is the hardware video, and Z97 is out. Oh my God!
And you've seen all the ASUS stuff, everybody. You haven't seen the EVGA stuff because the EVGA stuff showed up at the other place just as I landed here in Kentucky, so it didn't make it there on time. And I think I've got some MSIs to look at as well. So I'm going to be bringing you guys some coverage on the EVGA Z97 platform stuff. and also possibly the MSI stuff as well. And I haven't even talked to Gigabyte in a while. I don't know. That'd be cool to check out some of their stuff as well and see how it's doing.
I'll send an email right now.
I'll figure them too. You're serious, aren't you?
Yep.
He's going to send Gigabyte an email right now to see if we can get some of the Z97 stuff. Anyway, I'm not overwhelmed. I really like a lot of the features that some of the OEMs like Asus are bringing to the table, but I don't feel like Intel really did much to change things. I mean, it's literally, we put the Z97 and the Z87 side by side, like the WS motherboard, and my God, they're almost the exact same motherboard. It's like they copied and pasted and changed like one or two tiny little things, and even the speed difference is there's like no speed difference. However, the new 4970K, that might be faster. So I don't know. I haven't seen the real need for an upgrade just yet. If you're somebody who's using like a Sandy Bridge CPU and you want to upgrade to the newest platform, of course, Z97 is the way to go over Z87, especially if it's the same price. But if you get, a Z87 for 70, 80 bucks off, just go ahead and get Z87, unless you really, really need some of the features. But I don't know.
I don't know what to. If anybody out there knows, by all means, write me an email and let me know. But this is neither really a tick nor a talk. It's a refresh, and I think that's because Broadwell. Well, maybe not Broadwell, but I think it's because some of the fabrication processes were delayed. So we're really seeing a lot more stuff than Intel usually adds during a refresh. But I don't think it's a tick or a talk cycle. It's a little weird.
Yeah, Devil's Canyon's up on the horizon too. So
I actually was expecting much less from Z97 because this was, but going into it and looking at what some of the vendors are doing, it's like, oh, this is pretty cool. They're adding some stuff. I can see this as maybe a thing.
Yeah, it really had. Well, it's given the vendors a little bit more time with the platform, so they're able to do some things like put like the SATA Express. That's not part of the spec, but Asus was able to put it on the board, and you'll see some other boards with SATA Express on them. They're going to be doing a lot with the bus, just hooking things straight into the bus. You'll see that a lot. You'll see SATA SSDs or whatever right on board.
There's other unusual stuff too, like the M.2 supports SATA and PCI Express, and some vendors are implementing M.2 as SATA only, and some are implementing both SATA and PCI Express. But you've also got to juggle the PCI Express lanes, and so that's like a whole other thing.
Yeah, I just said SATA SSDs. I meant PCI Express SSDs. You'll see some that are exclusively like that, and they're going to be faster than the ones that also have the SATA controller, or that rely upon the SATA controller. So there's interesting things to look forward to and to be happy about. But yeah. Let's talk about really large SSDs, shall we? SanDisk has unveiled the world's first 4 terabyte SSD. We talked about that last week, and it is upon us. It'll be here very soon.
It's 2.5 inches. It's normal size. It's a normal size SSD. It's 4 terabytes.
Yeah, that's
a black hole of data.
They said they have 6 and 8 terabyte drives coming next year. So very soon.
That's crazy.
Yeah, very, very soon. Also, SanDisk has teamed up with Toshiba, and they're creating something called 3D SSDs and 3D flash memory. And what they're doing now is they are stacking the memory instead of putting it side by side, and that allows them to fit a lot more. So right now you've got like a memory card or something that's 64 gigabytes, 128 gigabytes. So imagine a memory card or something for a device like a tablet or a phone that can hold a gigabyte of data. That's what we're going to be looking at with this kind of technology.
A terabyte.
A terabyte. It's a gigabyte. 1 gigabyte of data. Yeah, no, a terabyte of data. Must be getting tired.
Yeah, this deal between these two companies is worth like $5 billion because it's going to be in everything. So, yeah.
It's going to be a pretty big deal.
Now, see, I want to see a new phone from Google or Apple that's 1 terabyte. It's like, here it is. It's like, why, here's everything, the whole 9 yards right there on your phone. It's like, okay, sounds good, thanks.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm tired of like 32 gigabytes of storage.
Well, you remember that was the whole pitch when Jobs came out on the stage, and he's like, I want to put your entire music collection on your, this is 160 gigabytes. It's not 4 gigabytes. So we put a hard drive in there. I want Tim Cook to do that because I don't know why. Not really, because it'd just be funny. And then he could be like, look, your entire movie and media collection's on your phone. Why do we do it? Because we can. That would be nice. They're not going to do that, but that would be nice.
Maybe we should do that.
Yeah, I'll spool up our $4 billion R&D department and our custom CNC lathe robots, and we'll get right on that.
And I'll buy a black turtleneck. It'll make it so. All right, Autodesk has decided to make their own 3D printer. This could be an interesting move. Now, Autodesk makes some of the Hollywood software that you guys, maybe if you're a Hollywood type person, you're using this software. They make 3D programs. And do they make Maya? Is that Autodesk? Or
Yeah, Autodesk owns or
everything.
Yeah, anything.
Smoke.
Yeah.
It's like their effects program, I think. I don't use any of the Autodesk programs because they're exorbitantly expensive. And I'm not about to pirate $30,000 software, so no, I don't own anything. But now they've decided to make their first piece of hardware, and their first piece of hardware is going to be a 3D printer, not like a camera or anything like that. Or maybe I was thinking their first piece of hardware would be like some sort of a motion capture device or something.
I'm not even sure what kind of technology this 3D printer is based on.
It looks like it looks like it's going to be a normal 3D printer. It's just made by them, and it's going to be. I think a lot of it's going to be they're trying to create a platform, and it's going to be an open source platform called Spark. And what they want is just to get a community together that can share ideas, share designs. That's what I think is going on with this. And it said it's going to be compatible with a lot of the different filaments out there. Is that what they call those filaments?
Yeah. So yeah, I really for a company like Autodesk, I really think filament-based printing is probably dead. I've seen some really impressive stuff from like some of the sintering machines that use like powdered metal, and I've seen the results from the 3D printing machines that use the liquid, and they use a laser to harden it. UV reactive epoxies basically is what that is. I'm glossing over, but there's a lot of technology that inkjet companies have. So like Lexmark and HP, their inkjet divisions, in terms of like moving a big heavy print head and positioning it in place exactly and the physics of that, there is tons of stuff in inkjet technology that is directly applicable to 3D printing. I do not know why we have not seen HP or Lexmark announce licensing that technology to a 3D printer company, because there is tons of technology that it is going to be patented for the next 10 years at least that has to do with very accurate head positioning and things like that would absolutely make an incredible 3D printer, but we don't have that.
Not yet, anyway. What we're going to have probably sooner than that? $85,000 hover bike. There we go.
No, it's gonna. You remember those ATV 3-wheeler lawsuits? This is done before it even gets started.
Someone's going to slam into a mountain and sue.
Yeah, we're going to see billboards that's like, have you been injured by a poorly designed product? And there's like a hover bike on the billboard.
Oh, it looks pretty safe to me. They said you could learn how to fly it in a weekend, and it'll respond to your natural motions just like on a motorcycle, like lean that way. There he is. He said, "Yep, driving around there."
If Dean Kamen can drive a Segway off a cliff, I'm pretty sure that this is not going to end well.
Wait a second. He did what?
What? You didn't hear about that?
No, I didn't hear about this.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think the guy that invented the Segway accidentally drove a Segway off a cliff. Let me just Google that.
It's probably sure. What was he doing? Something like, all right, everybody, I'm going to show you how safe this is by doing cartwheels on the edge of this cliff. Oh, shit. Yeah. Something like that. Yep, that's pretty bad. All right, it's time to talk about Tesla again, but this time we're going to talk about Tesla motor cars like Elon Musk. So he's building something called the Gigafactory. He's investing $5 billion to build a ridiculous factory to mass produce the batteries, and doing so is going to lower the cost of the batteries by, he said, more than 30%. So he's doing this. It's going to make the battery production a lot faster. They're going to be able to churn out more batteries, and it's going to save some money. However, meanwhile in Japan, they're coming up with an organic battery that could basically create the next Tesla, is what they're saying here in this article on The Atlantic. Now, these are organic batteries. I'll let you take this away.
Well, okay. I read this, and it's like, everybody and their brother is coming up with new battery technology because that's going to be the holy grail, and the person that comes up with that can, will be richer than the dreams of avarice. And I looked at this, and it's like, holy crap, this actually could be like a thing, and that might be because they're not actually saying enough about the technology. But it's carbon-based, but we're not talking about carbon nanotubes or anything like that. It's cotton. They're not really building a battery. They're building a capacitor. If you read this and you look at it, it looks like old school 1960s, 1970s the capacitor where you've got like a cotton wadding and soaked in an electrolyte. And so it's almost like a capacitor technology. And if you look at
It just holds the energy there.
yeah, and if you look at the particulars, it's like, oh, you can charge it 20 times faster, and it doesn't change temperature, and blah blah blah. And so those are a lot of the properties of a capacitor. Because I've thought for a long time capacitor technology and battery technology would meet in the middle. The problem with capacitors is they don't hold they leak. Not a fluid leak, but an energy leak. If you charge one up, they slowly lose their charge, whereas with a battery, when you charge it up, it'll hold its charge for a very, very long time. And so I would like to know more about the particular science behind this. But because it's just carbon and cotton, it doesn't use rare earth metals, it doesn't do any of that. Could be the holy grail of battery technology. It's got a higher energy density, doesn't catch on fire, nothing bad happens when you puncture it. And it wouldn't, because the ingredients that go into it are not really all that volatile. You know, there's no lithium polymer, there's no other rare earth metals in here. So this could be a really good way to store a bunch of electricity with cotton and carbon.
Well, the main thing for me, besides just storing the electricity, is the uber fast charging. Because right now, the Tesla, it takes a little while to charge. You can take it to like one of those fast charging stations, and it takes 20 minutes to charge, and then you're back on your way. Now, there's a lot of people out there. I haven't seen anyone say that this is terrible. Everyone's like, they always try to make it sound cute and cool. Like, oh, 20 minutes, perfect. I can go grab a coffee and chill out for a minute and read the news. But if you have somewhere to be, 20 minutes to recharge a car, I mean, I know it's got a pretty decent, like 200 and something mile, radius before it runs out, or not radius, or distance. It can go pretty good ways before it runs out. But if you need to get somewhere, you need fast charging, and 20 minutes may be a bit too long.
Well, the proof is in the pudding. Tesla agrees with you, and Tesla agrees with you to the point that instead of having rapid charge stations, they're developing robotic systems that will actually swap the batteries in your car completely automatically. So you pull up, and a robot basically picks your car up, takes the batteries out, puts new batteries in, and then puts your car back down on the thing. And the batteries that you're swapping for are pre-charged, and that is a faster operation than recharging your batteries. And so going through all that rigmarole, Tesla agrees with you. And meanwhile, they're spinning up a new factory for these. If I was Musk, I would immediately fly over to whoever this is and be like, "You want a job?
I've got lots of money for you."
Well, he should take a look at the technology first and figure it out.
Well, of course, yeah.
And I don't know if this guy knows what he's got. I don't know if Musk could even afford it. But yeah, this would be the thing to have.
Speaking of a thing to have, how about a really low-powered computer that works similarly to our mind, firing neurons? So some researchers at Penn State, they created this new kind of computer, and here's the idea. They're trying to create something that's brain-like. And they're using these chips that contain, quote-unquote, this is the scientific term right here, wacky oxide. And it basically, it's weird. It's not Boolean. That's the difference here. Now, Boolean. Did I say that wrong?
Yeah.
All right. It's not Boolean. Now, Boolean, it's always an on or an off. That's the way all computers work. It's ones and zeros. But these are not. They sort of spin to certain frequencies, and then they line up, and then they can fire together at the same time. This article here is pretty light on the details as far as that works, but the main thing here to take away from this is that it's not an on and an off. It's not a 1 and a 0. It works more like our brains do, and because our neurons can fire at the same time. It's almost like our brains are. I don't know how our brains work. Why am I even trying to explain this stuff? It's not going to work.
It is an analog biological process. It is not. It's not digital, and it's by definition not digital and not logic oriented. Every single operation on a computer boils down to true or false, on or off.
So these are not going to be just true and false, on or off. That this kind of technology, coupled with some of the AI advances, could get pretty scary. We could develop robots that reason and think and create.
Yeah, this is like the wetware coprocessor. It's like, the binary doesn't work. Let's, just put all this on a squishy something and deal with it that way. But the thing the article leaves out is, why is it useful? Like, what do they plan to do with this wacky oxide interface? Because, I mean, for my money, you could almost do the same thing with a CMOS sensor. I mean, a CMOS sensor is used in a camera. You could get all kinds of random EM and other environmental noise, and it's not really ones or zeros. But what do you do with it?
Well, here's the interesting thing about this, and I think this may be the application. It only uses about 1% of the energy when compared to like a digital computer.
but I need to know what it does.
It simulates the mind.
It's like we've got some electrodes that are floating around the air that are picking up background electrons, and that seems pretty cool. I don't.
Well, that's neat. What are the implications?
We need to know more.
So somebody has been, according to CNN, cured by measles, or cured of cancer by measles. Measles cured them. They're in remission now because they had cancer, and then the doctor gave them measles, and then the measles fought the cancer.
Okay, so there's two things here. One, no respectable medical professional will ever say that you're cured of cancer. It's just that it's in remission, or surgery has removed the growth, or whatever.
Yeah.
But the second thing is, I know House has been canceled. Is Hugh Laurie? I mean, what's going on? It's like we had to replace the patient's blood with acid in order to. What happened? But no, they really gave a woman measles infection to treat some sort of deadly blood cancer, and it worked.
It's a special designed version of measles that doesn't actually give you measles. It makes you it's very strange. So they tried this on 4 or 5 people after a kid who had cancer came down with the measles, and it basically made the cancer go away. And then they're like, what's going on there? So they modified measles so that people could get the measles virus and it would still attack the cancer but not give them traditional measles. But still, once they gave them the virus, people will get 104-degree fevers and vomit like crazy, and then they would get headaches so bad that they needed morphine and that sort of thing. So maybe they made the measles worse. I don't know how is measles that bad? I don't know.
In simple terms, the measles virus makes cancer cells join together and explode. Mayo Clinic researcher Dr. Angela Dispenzariani explains. There's also some evidence to suggest, she says, that the virus is stimulating the patient's immune system and helping it recognize any recurring cancer cells and mop that up. That's the holy grail of cancer medication right there. But messing around with viruses seems dangerous. I mean, there's like between 2 and 8% of the human genome is DNA that is of viral origin. So, yeah.
I don't know. It sounds like a good Robert Ludlum novel to me.
Accidentally create a virus that wipes out the human population. Oops.
Now this is Cassandra Compact. Is that one? Never mind. I forgot which book was about that. But anyway, the thing that's strange right now is they tried this on several people, and so far it's only worked on this one woman. The weird thing is, so far, is that it's only worked on one woman. So they're going to have to figure out what's going on here and then fix it. But it could be really, really crazy. All right, ready to talk about video games?
They speculated that the reason for that was because the other patients were in a more advanced stage, and so the patient's immune system was already severely compromised. How cool would it be, though? It's like, oh, let me inoculate you from blood cancer. Bloop.
All right, let's talk about video games. So somebody has taken 3 Kinects and put them together, and they're using the Oculus Rift to create sort of a holodeck. It's very version 00.1. But you guys can see what he's doing here. I'll push play on the video. You guys can go watch this on your own, but he's essentially created this very crude room, and he can interact with it. He can look around the room, and the Kinects can tell exactly where he is, and when he moves around, he's sort of superimposed into the scene. Let's see if it shows his hands coming in there. They're very blocky and strange looking. But, in order to do something like this, I think the real way to do it is to get dedicated technology just specifically for this sort of thing. But, hey, it's kind of cool. He can move around in the environment and do things, look around with the Oculus.
Someone get this man millions of dollars. This kind of technology could eliminate meetings where you have to go to a meeting with a bunch of people that you don't really want to meet with and talk about nothing and do nothing and nothing to advance the agenda or get any work done.
Because right now it'd be really creepy if you went to a meeting and everyone was all looking like this.
I would take that over a regular meeting any day.
I don't know. These guys from other dimensions, I guess it looks all right. But yeah, it's hard to... I don't know if I could take anybody seriously if their face was all going like this, just like... like, hey, did you get the TPS report done for me?
Clearly, you've never been to a meeting with high-level executives.
Never mind. I was going to say something funny, but it's not funny.
Well, the episode of Arrested Development where the guy hires the surrogate, that's a thing. You can actually do that. I really want to do that. I can't afford to do that. But that would be amazing. It's like there's a surrogate that's wearing a baseball cap with a camera that's just going to stand in at meetings and things. That would be amazing.
That sounds like a good life goal. Let's check out the new Wolfenstein House of the Rising Sun launch trailer. Of course, they used the German version of the House of the Rising Sun launch trailer. I didn't realize it at the time, but when I went to PAX, they gave us all a Wolfenstein messenger bag filled with 2 small records, like, actual records. And I haven't opened them, but apparently some of these songs were on the records that they're using for these trailers. Records?
Well, I guess they figured people would like scan in a high resolution version of the record and use some software to convert that back into sound or something.
Yeah. So the new Wolfenstein, I mean, the game does look interesting. I was worried at first that it would be over the top, Hollywood and cheesy. And now it looks like it's kind of taken the direction of like a Quentin Tarantino, that's like the Nazis in this are from Quentin Tarantino's mind more than they are from anything else. And that kind of is like the old spirit of the id game, like with the just over the top ridiculousness. But I don't know. I still do not know. Why couldn't they have called John Romero and said, "Hey, dude, come make some levels for us"? I like John Romero's levels.
There's like one frame where the guy looks like he's got the double barrel shotgun, like from the old, like Doom 2.
Yeah.
And there's like blood everywhere. And that looks kind of cool.
I do. Is this going to be multiplayer? And I do want the Doom beta, but I'm not going to pre-order just to get the Doom beta because you guys at freaking Bethesda better send me a serial number or something for Doom. I want to play Doom, see how it is. It's funny, we really get attached to these brands and that sort of thing, and the original team is just not there anymore. So can it really be the same thing? I don't know. I mean, what was the last good Wolfenstein? Not the last one, but the one before it. It was Return to Castle Wolfenstein. Remember that one?
Yeah.
That one was good.
I thought so too.
And that wasn't developed by id directly. It was developed in cooperation with some of the guys at id, but that one was pretty good. So I also
hope that this is a good 25 to 50 hour game, but it's
I don't
probably
think
going to
be
be
that long.
It'll probably be like 4 hours.
13, I bet. I'm betting 13. But it better have good multiplayer, and also enemy territory was really good too. It was Quake, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, how long was the original? Doom was pretty good. Doom was kind of short for the time. Doom 2, I think, was a little longer, or I could have just been a dumber player by the time I played Doom 2, but I think it took me longer to play Doom 2 than it did Doom.
Wasn't Doom 2 about 30 levels?
Yeah.
I don't know. If you guys haven't played Doom 2, you should go pick it up on Steam. One thing that's going to bother most modern players is that when you move the mouse, it actually moves your character forward and back in the world, so it feels really strange. But there's a fix for that, and you can go and Google it, and just Google, a mouse movement fix for Doom. Those games are still totally playable, and I think they're better than the Painkiller games and that sort of thing. I was just playing through some of them this last week. To me, they're some of the best games. I mean, American McGee?
Yes.
American McGee's Alice, and he made a bunch of other games.
American McGee's Alice was an amazingly fun game.
Well, guess where he got his start? Doom.
Yep.
That's where he was the level designer for Doom 2. And there's a lot of other legends that came from that, so anyway.
I'd like to see a remake of American McGee's Alice with, the Unreal Engine 4.
Well, some of the levels were so interesting. Like the textures flying everywhere and just extremely creative stuff. And then when I was watching it, all I was thinking about was, in the Doom 2 level editor, I made, my own little levels and stuff. And that was pretty difficult to do. And I was thinking, man, these things are way beyond anything that... And I remembered how hard it was to make those levels in Doom. And I was thinking, while I was making those levels in Doom, I was thinking... Man, John Romero and American McGee and all those guys must be really talented.
Yeah. Yep, they are.
Yeah.
As evidenced by all of the work they have done.
Yep. All right, what else do we have to talk about here? Far Cry. So Far Cry 4 has been announced, and it's going to be set in the Himalayas, and I'm definitely going to play it just because it's set in the Himalayas. Far Cry is really the game that is more like Skyrim with guns than anything else. A lot of people say Stalker is more Skyrim with guns. Stalker is... Stalker. It doesn't feel like Skyrim to me. This feels more like Skyrim to me, and I'm really looking forward to Far Cry 4.
The only thing that I'm going to say about Far Cry 4 is that I've got an alternative cover art for it that's amazing.
You got to send that to me right now.
Yes.
I'm going to bring this up on the screen. Hold on a second, you guys just bear with us. Yes, there it is. What on earth is this? And why is this happening on this show?
That's how we do it.
Let me just put it here beside the other one. Yeah. That's wonderfulness.
So this is happening.
Yeah. Steam added more titles so far this year than they did in all of 2013. It's pretty interesting. They're kind of ramping things up. And again, they are moving to a different type of platform. Just, stay tuned. Pretty soon, one of these days, Steam will be not exactly what Steam is now. I don't want to talk about that right now. We've talked about that before. What else is up? Oh, yeah. So the Xbox, they're releasing a version of the Xbox. Was it the One? Yeah, that's what it is. The Xbone. They're releasing a version of that without the Kinect. Because people don't want the freaking Kinect, and it costs extra money. So they're going to make a cheaper version of the system without the NSA surveillance tool. It's pretty interesting. And these guys, it's funny because you watch this video here, and the guys from Microsoft are just like, sometimes people just like to push buttons instead of using. They will not acknowledge the real reason they're doing this, and that's because the Kinect can be kind of a PR nightmare. There's been a lot of negative press about it. It does cost a little bit of money, and that's the real reason that people don't want it. They don't want to have to deal with all that. It's kind of invasive, guys, that it's monitoring everyone in the room. So why have they decided to make it a unit without this? They're not going to be able to harvest all the marketing data. That's what gets me, is like, weren't they harvesting a lot of marketing data using the Kinect? And now how are they going to do that? Have they figured out some other way? Does the Xbox come with an infrared heat sensor to tell how many people are in the room and a microphone? I don't know. Like, what are they doing now?
I think that Microsoft expected it, like, I don't think it was that. I think they're getting some of that, obviously, but I think it was more of, they had this sort of, whoever the project manager was, had his sort of field of dreams moment, and he's like, if I can force everyone to have a Kinect, they'll understand how awesome it is. And that just didn't really pan out that way. Where you could talk to it, and Xbox learns who you are, and it's not creepy at all. And it's totally fine, and everything's good, and it's just everybody's just you've got the machine that'll just read your credit card directly from the Kinect, and it's going to be amazing. But no, that did not pan out. And Microsoft's done a lot of really boneheaded things, like having to have I think I read you have to have Xbox live gold for apps like Netflix and Hulu, but now they're doing away with that with this platform update. And so it's like, wow, it was that way from the beginning. That's pretty stupid.
I don't even realize some of the stuff that goes on in the console world, because it's like, you guys have to pay for being on the on the community. We get that free with Steam and with our other online stuff. You guys have. I don't understand.
Yeah, Microsoft will drop Xbox Live as a requirement for Netflix, Hulu, and others. And it's like, wow, I had no idea consoles were so ridiculous. That's unbelievably ridiculous.
To me, when I'm reading this, in my brain, it translates to like, Microsoft agrees to stop whipping their users with chain whips. It's like, oh, I didn't know they did that. They did that? Oh my God. So yeah, it's that bad.
Instead of getting an Xbox, just shove a pencil in your eye. It's the same experience.
And then when you're done, we'll be over here in PC land, and we'll help you put together a PC, and you can join us.
Yeah, it turns out you can now have the console experience with a PC. If you really want, we can do that. That's the thing.
I play console games all the time on PC. People yell at me. Sometimes I get on Twitch, and I pull out like a PlayStation controller or whatever, and I start playing the console game or even an arcade game or something. And everyone's like, "Oh man, you're playing a game and you hate consoles." I'm like, no, I don't hate console games. I hate the philosophy of a lot of what's going on the console right now. But it's games. There can be good games anywhere, so on all platforms. But the whole Xbox, the way they're treating their people, no, not happening. All right, last thing I want to talk about. Have you played the game Superhot?
No, I haven't. But I've looked at the demos, and the demos look really cool.
It's weird. When I first saw this game, I looked at it and I was like, "Oh, this is some kind of hipster FPS game," because it's kind of weird. And when you first turn it on, like this voice keeps going, "Super hot, over and over. And it's just like kind of weird. Then I started playing it, and it's got some strategy to it. The interesting thing about this game is it's an FPS that time only moves when you move. So you come into a room and you see like three guys, and they're all shooting at you, and their bullets, they move so slowly, like 1 meter per hour or whatever. They're moving so slowly, but as soon as you move, as soon as you touch WASD, the bullets go at full speed. So there's a lot of strategy involved. You'll come into a room and you'll have to know exactly when to move, exactly when to fire, and it's kind of interesting. But yeah, it adds a different layer to it. The reason I'm bringing this up is that the game was funded in 24 hours. They needed $100,000 on Kickstarter, and in the first 24 hours, they already smashed that goal. I don't know if they expected that or not because they did not have their stretch goals ready. But they've definitely, wow. It was a little cheesy Flash game. And it's just something innovative and new. And a lot of times, big developers and that sort of thing are afraid to take steps like this where they make something that's just innovative and new. It's just not incredibly new. Max Payne did Bullet Time, but this is a step farther, and it does things a little bit differently. And it's something that people haven't experienced before, and all of a sudden they're like throwing their money at it. So, I don't know, Wendell, you got any ideas for Flash games that we can make and put on the internet and get people excited and then make a Kickstarter?
Yeah, the robot going back in time game.
Robot going back in time game?
Yep, the robot going back in time.
Are you allowed to tell people about this, or is it secret?
Yeah. No, it's a thing, and I'm surprised that it's not more popular than it is, because it is a crazy amount of fun. And
that game. They've made a couple games like that already, though.
Yeah,
haven't
but
they?
It doesn't. None of the ones that I've played capture the same magic of the original robot going back in time game. I'd like to see something. What's the game where you're moving through time that we've seen the previews of? It's like you're a robot, but you move forward and backward through time.
Reset.
Yeah,
it's a first-person game.
Yeah, so Reset looks like the first game that might actually live up to the 2D side-scroller robot going back in time thing. And if that's a 3D FPS version of that, holy crap, that's what I wanted.
Could be interesting. All right, that's all we got to talk about today. I'm going to get on a plane tomorrow, so I'll see you guys back in the other place as soon as I get there.
Why couldn't it be a mod to Fallout? Like, somebody mod Fallout and make this happen so you can see yourself move through time. This could be a Fallout mod. Somebody do it.
I think there's other 2D games that are coming out that are like this. Like I remember seeing a lot of things like this at PAX.
Yeah, there are a few 2D games. There are a few games I've seen that have a similar mechanic, but some of the higher level puzzles in there, the guy that designed those levels, some sort of crazy twisted genius, because some of the later levels, the things that you have to do to get past it is just insane. And it's like Portal, like whatever part of my brain that Portal tickles, that game mechanic also tickled that.
I know there's other games like this, but do you remember the particular name of this one? I think it's one of the first that was like this. I'm afraid that this sort of a theme that's going back in time thing is going to become sort of a, I don't know, it's going to become overdone, and because there were so many games that did similar things to this at PAX.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't remember.
I'll have it.
Somebody will put it in the comments for sure, and then we'll mention it next week. But I know what game you're talking about, but I can't remember either. Anyway, that's all for this time. It's time for me to go get some sleep and head back to the old place. And I'll see you guys there. Thanks a lot for all the tech support. And
Chronotron.
What is it called?
Chronotron.
Chronotron. All right, there you guys have it, Chronotron. So go play Chronotron, let us know what you think, and we'll see you next time.